Hi everyone, welcome to the Yellow Belt program. And in this video, I'm going to show you the theory, and we're going to make sure we understand what we're going to work on. And then in subsequent videos, we will actually be working on these things together. Also, we'll do that in our live meetings. So the white belt is where we begin. I call that the overwhelmed observer. Yellow belt, we're kind of what I'm going to call the worried watcher. And what I mean by worried watcher is you might be looking at ChatGPT, you might be wondering if it's a fit for you, but you don't really know. So the goal of the worried watcher is to ease your discomfort and help you understand where you are and what you can do. So one of the most common questions the worried watcher has is it's what if I fall behind? It's not so much do I need to adopt or adapt technology, it's what if I fall behind if I don't? So we're starting to get a little bit more curious. And here's where I want to just give you some comfort. I see a ridiculous amount of content saying AI is killing us, it's making us stupid, AI is taking over the planet. The reality is, if you're already stupid, AI is going to make you loud and stupid. Now, if you're here, I'm going to assume you're not stupid, but I'm also going to assume that you are brilliant. And so I think the number one mistake people make with generative AI like ChatGPT is they ask it to do things that they don't themselves understand. So they can't say to themselves, is this a good output or a bad output? I don't know. So I'm going to teach you in the yellow belt. The whole point is we're here to amplify you. And I say garbage in, garbage out, or brilliance in, brilliance out. It's your choice. So you can use ChatGPT for things that you don't know anything about, and you can hope you're getting a good result, or you can use it with your existing domain expertise, wherever that is. That's your superpower, and you can amplify that brilliance using ChatGPT. So I'm a little contrarian. A lot of experts, and I use that term loosely, they will say, oh, you can use ChatGPT for everything. You can, become a rock star at anything in time. Yeah, you can. But our goal is confidence. So we're going to leverage your existing skills, and you're going to train ChatGPT to do things and help you do things faster. So that way you can actually say, that doesn't seem right. So I will say this over and over. You'll hear this repeatedly. Maybe we make it a drinking game. You can take a shot every time I say this. You are the adult in the room. Therefore, it's up to you to make sure ChatGPT is doing what you want it to do. And by the way, I'm kidding. Don't turn that into a drinking game, because I say it a lot. Now, next we have clarity. And here is where we want to find specific tasks that ChatGPT can make irrelevant to you. My little approach is we want to eliminate everything possible that we can. Anything we can't eliminate, then we want to automate it within reason. And to be clear, automation is not all about computers. It's about systems. It's about a standardized workflow. But basically, when we automate something, we're optimizing it. And then last but not least, once we've eliminated and automated everything we can, then we want to look at delegating. So delegate is my third thing. And the reason it's third is it's sort of a trickle down. If you delegate everything that makes you busy, you've just made somebody else busy. So congratulations, you've scaled busy. That is not an impressive feat. It's actually terrible. So our goal is to scale leverage, not busy. And I want you to challenge everything in your world, in your business. This is my aspirational goal. It's not a promise. It's not a guarantee. It's a goal, is that everything we do, whether it's, we have, I call it four currencies. We've got time, energy, attention, and money. Everything we do or invest our time, energy, attention, and money in, I believe should yield a 10x return on investment. So with the yellow belt, you're going to test this, you're going to prove it. This is truly where we're looking for leverage. So I want you to be asking yourself, asking me to show you how this saves you actual time today, not just eventually. Because for the record, I can get theoretical, I can talk about what AI can do. We're going to focus on what AI will do today. So that's your mantra is, how does this save me time, energy, attention, or money today? Or how does it give me more time, energy, attention, and money? So the yellow belt is focused really on helping us identify and find that 10 times return on investment. And for the record, this is a goal. I believe in business, every dollar we invest, whether it's in marketing, sales, what have you, operations, improvements, things like that, it should have a minimum 10x return on investment. And again, that's my goal. If you're not getting that 10x return on investment, this is where AI can really help. ChatGPT. How do we find that 10x return on investment? So my goal for you, once you earn your yellow belt, jump ahead, we're going to get to black right away. No, kidding. So once you earn your yellow belt, you should have the basic confidence coming in from our white belt program, and we're going to build on that. So if you've not taken the white belt program, please go back and do it, because it is foundational. And so we're going to jump right in. I'm going to assume that you know what the interface looks like. I'm going to assume you know what I mean when I say prompt. But now you should be ready to apply ChatGPT to a high leverage business problem. And we're going to talk about what high leverage is and which business problems to solve. So we have 3 core objectives for the Yellow Belt program. And basically here, we want to take that existing domain expertise and leverage it. We will find those specific tasks that we can eliminate. And of course, we're looking for that 10 times return on investment. So as with the white belt, and you'll see this pattern throughout, we have 5 specific badges that we're going to earn in the yellow belt program. Now, if you're watching this as a CPE course, your CPE credits will substitute for your badge. So mindset, and I believe mindset is the most critical, because if we don't address our beliefs and our awareness up front, learning a skill is, number 1, harder, but number 2, less likely to stick. So I want you to look at your existing domain expertise. What are you known for? What do you do for your clients? This is your superpower. And by the way, I love Michael Gerber in his book, The E-Myth Revisited. He talks about the entrepreneurial seizure, where at some point we're sitting at our desk listening to our boss droning on, and we think, I don't need this. I could do it myself. I'm smarter than this. We run off, start a business, and we focus on doing the thing we love, not necessarily building a business around our expertise. So one of the things I advocate for is create products that basically share your expertise with the world, but in a bundled format, workshops, books, courses, workbooks, etc. But let's talk about what your expertise is. So I mentioned this earlier. I'll bring it back up again. You're the adult in the room. So it's up to you to start somewhere where you can build confidence. So if you actually go into ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, tell me everything about quantum mechanics. The problem is, unless you happen to understand quantum mechanics, and full disclosure, I don't, if you go in how do you know the answers you get are good? And that's the fundamental problem people have with ChatGPT is they're asking it to do things that they don't know how to judge. So I want you to understand as an insight that ChatGPT, AI in general, is merely a mirror that reflects the quality of your internal knowledge. Einstein is attributed with a quote, if you can't understand something simply, you don't understand it well enough. So the power of ChatGPT is not in what it knows per se, it's in its ability to process your instructions. So in the yellow belt, we're going to practice this, but the more clear your instructions are, the more clear your output. So again, this is about building confidence. You want to run. I'm sorry, we need to learn how to crawl and then walk first. So pick something you understand well, have a dialogue with ChatGPT about it, and this is how you're going to prove to yourself that it does work. So what I use it for a lot is I will say, here's 10 things I know about something. Help me prioritize the order I'm going to present this. Help me come up with better language. Help me find acronyms or things that I can use to help people remember things. So it's all about learning different things. Mnemonics is one of my favorite play fields with ChatGPT. I like to create things that people can use to remember things. So we're going to talk about what your instructions look like. We're going to talk about how we, in the course we do, in the live calls, we do actual practice. Here we're talking about theory. So the next thing, clarity. And by the way, if you haven't noticed, there's a theme throughout all of this: insight, clarity, growth. So insight, we understand things, we know what we're looking for. That leads to our clarity. And then once we have that clarity, then we can grow. So every belt level, every badge has insight, clarity, growth built in. So the first thing we want to do is look at pain to profit. And what this pain to profit task, as we will call it, is simply you want to pinpoint the single most painful, repetitive, low value task in your existing job that we can use and qualify. And I'm going to use the term for AI assassination. We are going to get rid of things that drive us crazy. So this requires your expertise to define, but it doesn't necessarily require it to execute. And what I mean by that is if you look at neurosurgery, I am not a brain surgeon. I don't understand their vocabulary. But what I do know is that a neurosurgeon's time is best spent in surgery operating on somebody's brain. You don't want to waste that person's time prepping the patient for the surgery. You don't want to waste their time cleaning up afterwards. So the goal is we're going to identify all of the little things inside the big things that you are capable of that we can eliminate, automate, or delegate so that you're just focusing on the most important things. Think of this as Pareto principle, where we're identifying the 20% of a task or project or whatever you want to call it that yields 80% of your result. So we look at the 20%, we want to polish that, we want to optimize it. That is the highest and best use of your time. Everything else should be eliminated, automated, or delegated. And so we will practice that until we all have it down pat. And by the way, this is where ChatGPT is great. It recognizes patterns. You can help. You can share your existing process and then say, where's the bloat? Where's the fluff? Where's the noise in the signal? What can we eliminate, automate, delegate? We will practice that, I promise. And we are, as part of our growth, we're going to develop the delegation mindset. And here, this is where we start to document our identified pain to profit um, tasks, plural to be exact. And we're going to use that in a structured format. Personally, I am a spreadsheet guy. I use a lot of spreadsheets for things. So what I like to do is do a little bit of an audit throughout the week. And for the record, I grew up in the accounting world as an accountant. I hate timesheets. These tiny little boxes that make you say, what did I spend my time on? I'm neurodiverse. I have 2 time frames, now and not now. So I don't worry too much about time spent per se, but I do care deeply about the cost of the thing. So there are activities that energize me and activities that drain me. We have a separate exercise called Heaven or Hell. We're not going to get into that today. But basically, Heaven, those are the activities that light you up. They drive your business forward. They're highly strategic and you love doing it. And then there's the hell. Those are the things you just hate. So we're going to practice, and we're going to create AI assistants who will take over and help us get things done. Now, again, this is about building confidence. So what I tell people is pick one thing that is repetitive, that drains you, you don't love doing it, and let's find a way to see what we can eliminate, automate, delegate, so that you freed up some time. And as a real example, you're learning how to use ChatGPT. That time's got to come from somewhere. Every yes to one thing is a no to something else. So you saying yes to this program means you've said no to something else. So my goal is, let's get you some time back. So if you invest an hour a week, my goal is over time, you should be saving a minimum of 10 hours a week by using ChatGPT. If you're not seeing that time savings, we need to have a chat, because this is the whole point of AI. It's about leverage. Now, full disclosure, in my experience, people who create space in their calendar crave to fill it. There's a comfort in busy. I want you to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and more importantly, comfortable being not busy. Now, that's not to say you become lazy. It's to say you're so effective and efficient, you can slow down. That's the goal. We are human beings, not human doings. And once the mindset has been shifted, and only once that has been shifted, we look at the skills. And here our core focus is to find specific tasks that ChatGPT can eliminate from your world. Eliminate, automate, delegate. So here's where I struggle. A lot of people, if you go online, you are going to be inundated with people saying, hey, I've got the world's best prompt pack. Who wants to buy my prompt pack? You've probably heard me rant about this before, but don't buy prompt packs. The reason I don't buy prompt packs and I don't sell them is generic prompts give you generic results. We are going to figure out how to create highly leveraged prompts tailored to you. So this is a bespoke prompt, which to me, one good prompt is worth tens of thousands of generic prompts. So we're looking for something that gives you the highest degree of savings, whether it's time, energy, attention, or money, for the lowest amount of effort put in there. Now, this is heavily built upon Pareto principles. I will be teaching you my Pareto framework. Basically, first round, first pass, we're looking to, at the top end, eliminate 20% of the tasks that basically waste 80% of our time. So that's the negative side of Pareto. We're taking away the tasks that drain us, that don't serve us, etc. And then we're on the other side of the coin. We're going to identify the 20% activities that get us 80% of our good results. So I do Pareto from the top and bottom. So we take away the bad and we add the good. And that's, I said earlier, we say yes to something, we say no to something else. We're going to say yes to the good and no to the bad. So this is your wax on, wax off moment. You want to get really clear on the things that drive you crazy, because those are the things we're going to eliminate, automate, or delegate. And by the way, I love things that rhyme. I love things that have a common theme or a word scheme. So eliminate, automate, delegate. That just rolls off the tongue and it's easy to remember. That's what we want to do in your business, is identify the things we can make easy to remember. Now, in the white belt level, we talked about, and I taught you, a 3-part prompting. In the yellow belt, we buckle your seatbelts, we get really crazy, we have a 5-part. And so this is where you're going to start practicing. And for the record, this is getting closer to ideal. It's still rudimentary on purpose. I want you to get comfortable and really understand this. Now, if I was being kind, I would have created an acronym. Maybe down the road I will. Right now we got nothing that looks like an acronym here. But what we do is we have this 5-part structure, and the goal is about precision. Now, for the record, I just said do not follow generic prompts. This is not generic. This is an outline, a framework that you're going to adapt to your own use. So one of the things I would recommend, we can talk about this, is just get in the habit or have a document that you use where you define, number one, the role. What role is ChatGPT playing in this project? Number two, what's the goal? What is success? Excuse me. What does success look like? 3, what are the constraints that we know of? And by the way, if you're unsure of, what should I put for this role, you can ask ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, I want to accomplish this goal. What role would you like to play, or should you play? So we've got, and then you can say, what constraints should I be considering or worried about? Then we are going to input the data. So you're going to say, here's the data that you need. And then last but not least, here's what the output looks like. Is this a executive summary? Is it a 10-page report? Is it a LinkedIn post? What is the format? So it sounds violent, but I'm all in favor of task assassination. And I definitely strongly encourage you to look for that return on investment proof. So you're going to practice in the yellow belt using the 5-part expert prompt to eliminate one pain to profit task and log the actual time saved. So again, this is building confidence. Look for those repetitive things that drive you crazy and bore you. We want to prove that we can eliminate things that we know well enough to say, yes, that's done well. Honestly, there are things that I do better than ChatGPT, and I will never get rid of those. There are things ChatGPT runs circles around me. I will happily let ChatGPT do those things. So our first week, your goal is to eliminate at least 1 hour of your week, your work week. And basically right now what we're doing, trading 1 hour of training for 1 hour of recovery. And the goal is, of course, that becomes scalable. So one of my favorite books that has had a big, profound impact on me is a book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. I believe John David Mann was the co-author. What we're looking for is to get a little bit better today. In the book, he talks about 1% improvement daily. And if we get 1% better today, 1% better tomorrow, 1% better to the day after, that compounds over a year, and we are significantly better for it. And again, 1% sounds minute, but once you start compounding, it grows. So find a way to track the return on investment that works for you. For me, that's a spreadsheet. Maybe it's a document, journal. I will let you pick that. Next, we have our gear set badge. And this is where we're getting into systems and flow. So the core focus for this badge is we're looking at systems and establishing them so that we have consistency and we want rapid access to success. This might sound a little oversimplified, but momentum is everything. If you don't see the return on investment, you're going to give up, you're going to quit, you're going to get distracted, you're going to find excuses to not do this. My goal is to show you how to do this, do it better, and actually build that momentum so that you can't wait to get to the next belt level. So the biggest risk to progress, the biggest threat to progress is the status quo. So you want to find ways to avoid reverting to old habits. So what we're going to do is find ways to make your new workflow easier and faster than the old painful way of doing a task. So we're starting with a task because, again, I want to prove to you that it works. I want you to build your confidence. But if we can eliminate one task, then we can eliminate the next and the next. So again, back to the 1% improvement. If we eliminate one task a day, 5 days a week for, let's pretend we only work 48 weeks, we've eliminated 240 tasks. Now, I don't know if you have 240 tasks to eliminate. We'll find out. But here's the secret. You don't need to worry about all 240 tasks. Pareto principle tells us within that 240, 20% of those tasks, so 48, waste 80% of our time. More importantly, 20% of those tasks, or 48, give us our best results. So the goal is identify 48 that we're going to eliminate, automate, delegate, 48 that we're going to optimize. I don't care about the rest in the middle yet. And now, great problem to have. Once we've optimized everything, then we optimize the next 20% on the top, and we take away the next 20% on the bottom. We meet somewhere in the middle where we've optimized half of the business and we've eliminated half of the things that we don't need to do. So again, one of the first things I do, and this is optional for you in terms of how you do it, I use Excel, or sorry, more specifically Google Sheets. I use a spreadsheet. If you prefer a journal, a Google Doc, a Word document, I don't care. But basically, you want to start tracking. Some people use Notion, etc. You want to start tracking the time you normally spend on something and the time that you're saving. And what I like to do, I use Google Docs for this, for the actual prompts. I will show you my workflow as we go and as we practice, not to overwhelm you, just to give you an example. My way is not the only way. It's the best way for me personally. So I want you to understand it's about personalizing it. But basically, we want to track what's my prompt and how were the results. And really, truly, for every task we're looking to eliminate, I like big ones, things that are tedious, that take 5 to 10 hours a week. Those, there's almost guaranteed to be some bloat or fluff or something in there we can eliminate, automate, or delegate. Now, this is overly optimistic, but my goal is to create what I call the one-click workflow. It's not literally one click. It's just one click to start it, and then we can follow it. And a lot of people use text expansion tools. I personally, for any workflow, I create a spreadsheet. I've got cells where there's a URL. I just click on that link and I go to the thing I need to do. So I might have a link to a ChatGPT conversation. I might have a link to a Google Doc where there's more detail. I like to have a dashboard and a launch point so everything is in one place. And basically, this is best practices for a website. Why wouldn't we make a best practice for business? Everything that you need for some project should be no more than 3 clicks deep. So back to the website, the idea is if I'm looking to find something, I as a visitor to your website should not have to click more than 3 times to get to it. Humans being humans, if they have to click too many times, they forget the path or they stop going. So we want to make our workflow that simple. I have a friend who works in a large institution. They have 87 different programs, and I would guarantee that at least half of them are obsolete, but they still use it. And don't judge them like I do, but they still use DOS-based programs. Can you imagine new workers coming in and having to learn 87 different tools? Not surprising, they have some training issues because people are confused. Next, we have our community badge, and this is where we are going to get into collaboration. And you can do this at your own speed. There is no rush, but I truly believe the fastest way to learn something is to teach what you know. And with the yellow belt, and I saw this in my days way back when in Taekwondo, this is where we can use shared practice to build confidence. And this is one of those things I want you to understand the big insight. Your biggest win is proof that the return on investment is real. That's up to you to identify, it's up to you to track, and it's up to you to celebrate it. And I think a lot of people, they forget the celebrate it part because they're like, oh, I saved 10 hours, big deal. I'll fill it with something else. No, yay, saved 10 hours. Now I can choose what I do with that. So we want to help one another. And this is part of the badge is helping others overcome their own skepticism. So this is where we're going to be sharing the things we've learned. We're going to share our wins, and I encourage you to have a accountability partner in your own life. We'll talk about that at some point, but basically an accountability partner is you commit to doing something, you share it with somebody else and say, I commit to doing this, and you're going to tell them when you plan on doing it by, and they will come back and say, hey, did you do it? That level of accountability is huge. And that's why I personally have the weekly meeting so that nobody is ever more than a week behind. If you come back to the meeting and you say you're stuck, great. I can help you get unstuck. If you stop coming to the meetings because you're stuck, I'm sorry, but I don't know you need help. So I encourage you to come to the meetings whenever you can so that we can share as a community. And in the yellow belt experience in particular, I encourage people to share because this is my joy. These are the dumb moments that seem insignificant and small, but to me they're huge wins. When somebody says, oh my God, I did a prompt and I remembered all 5 of the steps. I celebrate that because that's a big deal. And by the way, it took me about a year to figure out how important exactly prompt structure was. I experimented a lot before I came up with that. My actual personal prompting is significantly more complex, but for a yellow belt beginner, 5-step is great. And here we want to be the positive peers. We are going to celebrate one another. And one of the things I like to do is put together 2 or more belts, yellow belts together, and ideally based on task themes and share. How does this work? What could I do better? What's your take on this? I'd love your feedback. And remember, we are adults. This is a dojo, and the idea is that iron sharpens iron. So if you are a delicate snowflake and you can't handle feedback, this is probably a good time to say, you know what, this isn't for me. I guarantee I've been wrong more than I've been right. However, I've learned a lot from being wrong. So we want to learn from our mistakes. And more importantly, we want to capitalize on our wins. So the real homework here is that we share. We tell people, here's what I'm working on. Here's my pain to profit task. Here's how much time it took me. Here's how much I saved. Again, time, energy, attention, or money. You're going to either spend or save one of those or earn more of it. Sorry, I can't literally give you time as in I'm going to help you live longer, but I can give you more leverage time so that you get more done quickly. And really, truly, a great goal out of the gate for Yellow Belt is find a way, find a task where you can save on average 30 minutes a day. Ultimately, I like to get that up to an hour and then 2 hours, but start small. And if 30 minutes feels big, go for 15. And this is where we get real leverage. If people share their wins, here's what I did, here's what I was doing, here's what I did to fix it, and here's what I'm doing now, here's the savings. This becomes a snowball effect. We help each other build momentum quickly. So we're going to share this. We have a community on LinkedIn. We'll figure out other channels, but for now, LinkedIn is a great place because that's where I am. Most of my people are there. But share your wins as case studies. And I'd like to say, rather than say, here's what you should do, I list things as an experiment. I'll say, hey, here's my hypothesis. Here's where I was. Here's the background. Here's what I tried. Here's the result. So this is not touchy-feely, generic. Well, I save time. Okay, great. How much time? So that's what we're looking for. The community badge is about collaboration and sharing. Now, my favorite badge, I think this is the one that is easiest to earn, yet it gives us the most confidence, is the attitude badge. And here we're focusing on respect and consistency. And I just want to point out that respect is for yourself as well as those of us in the group. So we want to respect ourselves, we want to respect the group, and really, truly be curious and help one another. So I hope by now you've understood that I am obsessed with the 10 times return on investment. And basically with the attitude badge, this is where you have proven to yourself and you say quietly, knowing, it's not bragging, it's just that this works. ChatGPT is the right tool for you. And if it's not, that's fine. I found I speak ChatGPT natively. All the things people complain about don't happen when I use it. So to me, it comes naturally. And that's why I built this program. I want to help people find it, even if it's not a natural thing for them. And really, truly, just getting used to consistency. That is the first habit of a master. If we don't have that consistency, we can't do the intentional practice. We will not grow as a master or towards mastery. And really, truly, a little consistent effort is far better than singularity and big bursts of effort. So we want this to be sustainable over time, not a one-time, one-and-done system. And we want to build that rhythm to cement the transformation. So for me personally, I have ChatGPT open in my web browser at all times, and I use it literally all day, every day. It is part of my workflow, not something I leave my workflow to do and then come back. So again, I am completely cloud-based. I use Google everything. Everything Google is in my world. So um, everything I use or need to use is in my Chrome browser. So we're going to help you find how to integrate it into your workflow. And what I like to do, I have something I call the rhythm anchor. And basically, there's something I do every day. Whatever that thing is unique to you. It's not my thing, it's your thing. But every day I have one non-negotiable thing that I do. Um, and that's where I anchor my ritual. Now, for the record, when I first started, that was critical. Now it's so deeply ingrained in me, it just happens. So, what I used to do is I would schedule time in my calendar and I would just use that time to experiment. When that time was up, I moved on and did something different. But really, truly, whenever you're about to start something, ask yourself, is it possible that I could use ChatGPT to do this better? And by the way, we'll practice creating standard operating procedures. It is amazing what you can eliminate, automate, or delegate if you're intentional and you're thinking about it. And so we're going to encourage you. Now, I don't track this. I'm going to encourage you to track it, but you should consider logging 10 consecutive days. Now, to be clear, consecutive doesn't mean you work 7 days a week, though, let's be blunt, you probably do. What I mean by that is consecutive days where you're working. So if you're using ChatGPT and you work Monday to Friday, then that's 2 weeks of using it consistently. But again, once you've created your new one-click workflow, why would you use it? So if you're not using it or if you have resistance, ask yourself what might be getting in the way of you doing that thing. And basically, that's how we're going to eliminate your first pain to profit task. Now, again, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, I know we're busy people, but here's the thing, build that habit of every time you touch something new, just jot it down on a post-it note or a notepad or something and ask yourself, could ChatGPT help me do this better, help me do it faster, or help me decide whether I need to do it in the first place? I haven't talked about efficiency versus effectiveness, but given that we're talking about progress and consistency and attitude, now's probably a good time to talk about efficiency and effectiveness. So, and the difference, because the difference is profound. Efficiency is doing things right. Effectiveness is doing the right things. So here's where most people end up getting really, really busy. They focus on being efficient. So whatever the thing is that you're doing, you're focused on doing that thing right. So whether it's blog post, whether it's proposals, contracts, whatever, efficiency is doing that thing right. Now, effectiveness is my favorite nuance because with effectiveness, I put effective first. And basically, what I'm looking at is what should I be doing? What is the right thing to do? So, if you don't really know the difference between efficiency and effectiveness, we will be practicing that. But really, what I look at is efficiency is my first filter. If I need to know something or if I need to do something, I will ask, is this something worth doing? Is this the right thing? If it's not, good news, I can eliminate it and nobody cares. And I hate to do this. This offends a lot of people, but I will say this. 80% of the stuff we do in small business doesn't matter. And what I mean by that is it's not necessarily that it doesn't matter altogether. It's just you don't have to be the one to do it. Or, I'll give you an example. I had a client once upon a time, business owner. She had a team of about 30 people, ran a fitness facility, and her and I happened to be at a networking event. We were having a conversation, and her phone just started blowing up. And it was amazing because her staff were texting her saying, "We're running low on toilet paper for the bathrooms. Somebody's got to do something." And that somebody was her. So she actually left the networking event to run to Costco to buy a bunch of toilet paper and take it to the facility. And I couldn't help but wonder why they don't have some sort of system where ordering the toilet paper and having it delivered, number one, is easier. But it's all about, was that the best use of her time as the founder, the leader? And by the way, she was an active producer in the business. She taught courses, she taught classes, she ran fitness routines and things. Her highest and best use of time was not waiting in line at Costco to buy toilet paper. And then, God forbid, delivering said toilet paper to the business. As you can imagine, this poor entrepreneur, she was the boss, but she was not in charge of her time or her life. And she worked 24/7. She had no time off. Her complaints were she didn't see her family. Her kids were always at home alone. They were teenagers, so it was okay. But really, truly, this is about building that momentum. So at this point, this is the end of the theory, more or less. What I want you to think about is, in my day, what are the things I'm busy doing? And for the record, excuse me, I'm not one of those mean people. I'm not going to make you do a time audit and sit down and say, okay, I spent 5 hours this week doing this. I spent 3 hours doing that. I'm not making you do a timesheet. What I suggest, and this is the most fundamental, easy thing you can do, is as you go about your day, have a notepad or something near you. And every time you start a new task, write that task down. So if, you go through Monday morning, you have to count inventory, just write count inventory. You can put a time estimate with it. The goal is, we're not here to track your time. We're not here to constrain you with that. But the idea is, where do you spend your time? And at the end of the week, you can list out, again, it doesn't have to be every single thing you did. If it took you 5 minutes, I don't care. Don't bother documenting it. You may at some point, but for now, I don't care. What I care about is the stuff that you showed up Monday morning and you expected to do 100 things, and then you ended up spending 3 hours doing one thing. What is that one thing? And yes, I will also say that on the low end, all those little tiny tasks, I call that death by 1,000 paper cuts. Some of those we should just eliminate right out of the gate, so cross them off your mental list. Again, if we can get toilet paper delivered, buying toilet paper should be automated in some way. And I've worked in franchises, I've worked in restaurants, I've worked in service. Certain things are predictable. Set it and forget it. Find ways, have a regular supplier who delivers. That time savings is huge because it's teeny little bits of the time that stack up. Excuse me. And for the record, if you don't know what your big time sucks are, just being aware of it, you will start to notice. And that's what I'm looking for, is at the end of the week, having a little self-reflection and saying, where did the week go? So that is the yellow belt theory. And if you are not already a member, I highly encourage you to join our digital dojo. These videos, the theory, we make it available publicly for free. We offer it as CPE credits for different professions. The thing is, practice, practice, practice. That's the only way you get good at this. And that's what we do inside the digital dojo. I will walk through. I don't do theoreticals. I hate talking in theoreticals. But in the dojo, what we do is people share something they're working on or struggling with. And as a collective, we tackle it. I will show how I approach it. I will make some suggestions. And then what we do is we have our students actually try it on their own, apply it, and tailor it to their situation. Now, the other thing, and I can't stress this enough, I love community, I love participation. We want to make sure people are learning from each other. So come with an attitude of sharing. And what I love about this is you can share a problem, or you can share a solution, or you can share a problem and the solution you're working on. But the key is we share, and through that, others grow. So what I love, life's too short to make all the mistakes on our own. Let's help one another and learn together. So we'd love to have you in the digital dojo. We meet once a week on Google Meets. It's a video conference call. And the idea is, how do we apply the things we've learned? So thank you and congratulations. You've made it through the theory for the yellow belt. Well done.